On 5 News, how thousands of babies may have been put at risk because of a TB vaccine shortage. Parents in high-risk areas say they can't get the jab.
Nobody's telling me what I'm supposed to do. You know, here, I cannot get any vaccine and they don't even know when it's going to be established.
One leading expert has told us it could be years before we see the full impact. Also, cyber threat. The government says it will strike back if Britain gets hit by a web attack. Should footballers be allowed to wear poppies on their kits? And
So hello from the other side.
as Adele reveals she had postnatal depression, we look at why so many still suffer in silence. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. It is a potentially deadly infection that should have been banished to history, but instances of tuberculosis in Britain are stubbornly high. And now 5 News can reveal 20,000 babies may be at risk because they haven't been immunised. It's because of the chaotic system. There's a shortage of the BCG vaccine and no one seems to be keeping track of who hasn't been given it. Experts warn that could cause huge problems in years to come. Dominic Reynolds has this report.
Eleanor is 5 months old and she's officially at risk of contracting tuberculosis. Because of where she lives, the NHS says she needs the vaccine for TB, the BCG. But she hasn't had it because the NHS doesn't have enough of it.
If she goes to the playgroup and then catch something, she can die.
Her mum Lydia says she's been sent in circles by GPs and health visitors, that they all know there's a vaccine shortage, but no one seems to know what's being done about it.
You feel like very vulnerable, you know? Your baby is exposed to something. It is quite serious disease and nobody's telling me what I'm supposed to do. You know, here, I cannot get any vaccine and they don't even know when it's going to be established.
You might think fatal lung infection TB is part of Britain's past, but there were 5,500 new cases here last year. That's one of the highest infection rates in Western Europe. And that's why the NHS recommends that in high-risk areas like parts of London and Birmingham, all new babies should get a vaccine. But since supply problems started in March, over 20,000 high-risk children may have gone unprotected. The vaccine's aimed at developing countries, so it's cheap, but that means there isn't much profit in making it. This is the BCG vaccine that I got as a teenager, made by a British company until 2002. Since then, we've had this, a vaccine made by a Danish manufacturer, but in February of this year, it stopped production altogether. And a leading researcher told us this could be causing a crisis that we can't yet see.
Because disease can take many years to develop, we might see what the impact was of this BCG shortage today, this year, last year, but it might take us a long time to gather that data, and then we'll look back and and we'll wonder why we didn't do something about it at the time.
But it'll be too late.
But it'll be too late. Yeah.
The vaccine shortage is only half the problem. The other half is the health service communicating to new parents about what they can do. So who's to blame for this communication breakdown? I'll try and get your head around this. Public Health England told us it has secured limited supplies of a vaccine, but it's down to local providers or CCGs to work out who should have it. One of those CCGs told us it's passed on all the right information to GPs and it's down to them. But some GPs said they haven't had the information they need from Public Health England. What's the problem here?
As a GP, you're used to helping, and frankly, as I always say to my registrars, I don't need to know the answer, but I need to know a man who does. The problem is, at the moment, I don't know a man who does. Nobody's telling us anything.
Hey, no.
Health experts say to contain TB now, we must know who, like Eleanor, has missed out so they can catch up later. But Public Health England told us they don't know who's missed out because they haven't been keeping records. Was that a big mistake? It will be years before we find out. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
Our lives are increasingly connected to the internet, whether that's email or bank accounts, devices that can be controlled from our phones, or vital services like airports or the national grid. And today, the Chancellor Philip Hammond warned that cyber hackers are developing sophisticated ways to threaten those systems. He announced a new strategy promising to help Britain strike back. Our political editor Andy Bell has the details.
We are already under attack, says the government, cyber attack. And it's an assault not only on the infrastructure that keeps the country working, but also on the everyday technology in our homes. And those attacking us range from foreign states to teenage hackers. Today, the Chancellor said Britain would spend nearly £2 billion not just to defend itself, but to deter such attacks.
By having the ability to strike back in kind in cyberspace, to let the hackers and the attackers know that if they take down our networks, they risk having their networks taken down. We will make Britain safer.
He didn't name them, but it was clear he had, among others, the Russians in mind. We're used to seeing this kind of display of their power. The head of MI5 has now backed up the warnings from the Chancellor. Moscow today said the allegations were unfounded.
What we're seeing is the result of a piece of malicious software that's guessing passwords.
And there are other threats. This company provides a kind of immune system for businesses detecting unusual activity which could be a criminal cyber attack.
Sometimes they're seeking to steal data that they know they can sell and make money on. Sometimes they seek to interrupt your business, usually by encrypting all your files and then extort you to pay up and have those files unlocked again so you can get on with your day job.
Another cybersecurity front opening up is what's called the Internet of Things, the devices in our homes which can be hacked.
What people need to do if they're worried about the security of their Internet of Things devices, a key thing is to change the password. So it'll come with the default password, change that to something strong, secure and unique.
There'll be more specialists and a new research institute, a recognition that cyber attack is officially what's called a Tier 1 threat, alongside war and terrorism. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Iraqi troops backed by allied forces have entered part of the city of Mosul for the first time in their attempt to recapture it from so-called Islamic State. Their fighters are said to have reached the eastern edge of the city after 2 weeks of bombarding IS positions. They've also captured the state television building, but they're reported to be encountering fierce resistance. Now, last night, we told you about the anger surrounding the decision not to have an inquiry into the so-called Battle of Orgreave, the violent clashes between police and miners in 1984. Tonight, campaigners insist they're not giving up their fight for the truth and are considering a legal challenge. Well, earlier, MPs wanted to ask urgent questions of the Home Secretary Amber Rudd in Parliament, but she didn't turn up to answer them. Peter Lane reports now from South Yorkshire.
Because we're not downhearted as a campaign, let's give it an amber warning, as they talk about.
Emotions running high, Orgreave campaigners outlined plans for a judicial review, hoping to challenge the decision that there'll be no public inquiry.
As you can all tell, this is very difficult and very disappointing. But we regard the gloves as off now on our side.
It was Barbara Jackson who received the phone call from the Home Secretary announcing the decision.
I never thought we were ended. I thought I'm going to have a good cry at the shock of it. The issue has not been sorted. It's not been brought out into the open.
And although the issue was questioned in the Commons today, Home Secretary Amber Rudd wasn't there to listen.
Isn't it simply staggering that the Home Secretary has brushed away an inquiry as not necessary? And isn't it even more revealing that she wasn't prepared to come to this House today to justify her decision?
The Home Office says it's not in the public interest to investigate police tactics at Orgreave because there were no deaths or miscarriages of justice. For the miners who were there, like Kevin Horn, it's a bitter blow after hopes were raised.
It's like a lump in your stomach that don't go away. It's like a cancer that that won't be cured until we can say, yes, that's what we told you.
32 years on, Orgreave seems as divisive as ever. Campaigners may declare the gloves off, but they have no guarantee yet that a judicial review will happen or go their way. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Football associations in England, Scotland and Wales are asking FIFA to drop their ban on players wearing poppies. The teams all play on Armistice Day and they want to show their support for the appeal, but currently the world's governing body won't allow it. Let's talk to Simon Vigar, who joins me now. Simon, what is the problem with players wearing poppies?
Well, domestically it's not a problem. Plenty of clubs have got poppies printed on the shirts. Internationally it's a whole different ball game. FIFA says it is political, and that's the controversial point because the Royal British Legion says it's commemorative. This is the crucial document, FIFA's Laws of the Games, Law 4, as I'm sure you know, players' equipment. Here is the crucial clause in the rules that equipment must not have any political, religious or personal slogans, statements or images. Well, the FAs in England, Scotland and Wales are pressing for change on that. They say it's not political, but they haven't got long to sort it out. A week on Friday, England and Scotland play at Wembley. The following night, Wales play. That's the Armistice weekend, of course. FIFA's view and the view of the International Olympic Committee is it's the thin end of the wedge. If they allow that, all sorts of other claims will be made.
Can it be sorted out, though? Is there a compromise?
Well, it can be sorted out because it was sorted out 5 years ago. We can see pictures from England's game against Spain where they were able to wear poppies on the tracksuit, and also they had a little poppy on the black armband. That was after intervention from Prince William and David Cameron. There's the small poppy there, but it's not on the shirt. That was 5 years ago. There may be a compromise this time. There may not.
Simon, thank you. Coming up on 5 News. Growing support for Donald Trump in the race for the White House. Now, one poll puts him ahead of Hillary Clinton. And after Adele opens up about postnatal depression, we hear from mothers on how it affected them.
They handed her to me and I was expecting that overwhelming, and I just didn't. I kind of just wanted to give her back, almost.
I was really scared to kind of admit that I have postnatal depression.
We'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. The battle between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is becoming incredibly tight as America decides who's going to be their next president. With exactly 1 week to go, the gap in the polls has narrowed again. It's now barely 2 points. And one poll even put Donald Trump ahead for the first time since May. Well, we're covering the run-in from some of the key states. Let's go live now to Julian Drucker, who joins us from Ohio tonight. And Julian, we should stress it's just one poll. How significant is it, though?
Sian, this is a crucial poll at a crucial time. It shows Hillary Clinton has dropped 12 points in just 9 days. Clearly, that FBI inquiry into her private emails is perhaps having some sort of effect. It's certainly given a boost to Donald Trump. He's been speaking in Pennsylvania in the last hour on his first campaign stop of the day. An advisory, though, to all of this, as we have seen quite spectacularly in polls before big votes very recently, they can get them extremely wrong. And worth saying as well, in 2012, at this point, a week before the election, Barack Obama was 1 point behind Mitt Romney.
And it's worth us as well pointing out the issues in all this. Donald Trump's big issue is that of immigration. You've been looking into it. What have you found?
We've been to the most discussed stretch of land in this whole campaign, Sian. Both candidates have vastly different takes on immigration. And in Arizona, home, of course, to the Grand Canyon, a new chasm is growing.
More than most states, Arizona's affected by and divided by the immigration issue. While Hillary Clinton is pledging a softer approach towards migrants, Donald Trump wants to make it harder than ever. Near to America's border with Mexico, I met a man who's implementing his own unorthodox policy.
What's the motivation? Why do you want to do it?
I love my country. It is what it is. Ex-paratrooper Tim Foley leads a group of armed civilian border enforcers. They can't stop illegal immigrants or drug smugglers, so pass their secretly filmed footage of them, like this, to the authorities.
Put together a database on the trail, what times they come through, how many comes through. Basically, we're pretty much an intelligence gathering unit.
But whoever wins the election, Tim expects to still be doing these controversial migrant checks for years to come.
They have guys on that mountain there, mountain over there, mountain over there. So you have to try to get in at certain times of the day. But as I go, I look for sign on the ground of activity coming through. See the depth of that track? That means he's carrying something, and something big. So he's probably carrying dope. It's not about race because we have people from 78 different nations coming across the border. It's about sustainability. How do you sustain this many people coming across? You build a wall and nobody's there to watch it, then...
It needs people, not walls.
Right, exactly. Boots on the ground.
It is currently just a fence which separates America and Mexico, and it stops just here. If America chooses Donald Trump as its president next week, he's vowed to build a 40-foot wall here, all along the entire 2,000-mile border.
What does all this rhetoric mean for the immigrants who now legally live in America? In Arizona alone, over 1 million Latinos are eligible to vote, but large numbers don't. So volunteers from this group in Phoenix are knocking doors to boost turnout.
I want Clinton because she's very nice.
And you worry about Donald Trump?
I worry about, yeah, I worry. I wish he's not winning.
We've been doing this summer.
And in this closely fought state, the Latino vote could swing it for Hillary Clinton.
Donald Trump has been saying a lot of negative things about the Hispanic community. So not voting is voting, right? Because it's making it easier for the other candidate to win.
Many have described the race for Arizona as an immigration referendum. A referendum, as Britain knows, can deliver surprises. Julian Drucker, 5 News, Arizona.
And tomorrow, Julian will be reporting on the issue of race in North Carolina. Triple Olympic silver medalist Lewis Smith has been suspended by British Gymnastics over a video of him appearing to mock Islam. The video showed him laughing while pretending to pray to Allah. He's since apologised, but bosses say it was his second offence and decided it warranted a 2-month suspension. Finally, postnatal depression affects at least 1 in 10 new mums, yet many don't realise the severity of it until long afterwards. Well, today, Adele, whose son is now 4 years old, has spoken publicly for the first time about the torment that she went through. She said she felt inadequate and frightened, but she didn't want to talk about it. As our health correspondent Catherine Jones reports, she wants her experiences to help others.
Adele's fame is based on songs that draw deeply on her own emotions and experiences. Now, for the first time, she's revealed her personal struggle with mental illness following the birth of her son, Angelo, 4 years ago. In a magazine interview, Adele says, "I had really bad postpartum depression," that's the American term for postnatal depression, "after I had my son, and it frightened me. But I didn't talk to anyone about it. I was very reluctant." At the Cedar House support group for mums with postnatal depression, that's an experience which rings true.
They handed her to me and I was expecting that overwhelming, and I just didn't. I kind of just wanted to give her back, almost.
I was really scared to kind of admit that I have postnatal depression because I thought as soon as I admit it, social services are going to get involved, someone's going to take my child away.
Adele made only rare appearances, like to collect her MBE while Angelo was a baby. She explains, "I was obsessed with my child. I felt very inadequate. I felt like I'd made the worst decision of my life." Her partner, Simon Konecki, advised her to talk to other mums. Initially, she resisted. Then, without realising it, she says, "I was gravitating towards other women with children because I found they're a bit more patient. We wouldn't judge each other." It's estimated PND affects 1 in 10 women after birth, and half of new mothers have concerns about their mental health.
For her to have a real illness, which is actually very real among a lot of mums, it just shows that it really can happen to anyone.
We need to get it out there
and be talking about it. I think at schools we should educate girls and boys into, you know, postnatal depression, and so it's quite a normal treatable illness that always goes away.
If you get the right help at the right time, you'll get better.
Adele also says she has recovered, and hopefully admitting her difficulties will encourage others to seek the help they need. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Well, if you'd like more information on postnatal depression and, of course, how you can get some help, you can find it on our Facebook page. You just search for Channel 5 News. Before we go, Matt's joined us to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight. Hello there.
Good evening, Sian. Yes, we'll have more on the threats facing Britain this evening, primarily from Russia. Now, last month, Royal Navy warships were forced to mobilise after Moscow's carrier fleet entered the English Channel. But there have been plenty of other incursions as well. RAF fighters frequently have to scramble to intercept Russian aircraft that have entered British airspace. We'll find out just how big the threat is. Also, we'll be live from the premiere of what's being called the TV drama of the year.
We have a new sovereign, young and a woman.
No, it's not me and Sian talking at the end of the 5 News. It is The Crown, a new Netflix drama about the Queen. It cost more than 100 million quid to make, but won't even be shown on terrestrial TV. So will it be worth the money? We'll be hearing from the cast, Sian.
You get cheekier and cheekier. Thank you, Matt. Look forward to that. That is it for now. Claire Nazir has got the weather next. I will see you again tomorrow at 5. Matt, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Goodbye for now.